Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey.
Welcome to another episode, and today we are going to discuss technology and sustainability, and we are doing with a leader and an expert of both fields. I'm really pleased to have here Tim Frick, who is the founder of Mightybytes. Thank you, Tim, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Tim, it's really interesting. You are a pioneer in the field of sustainability, a pioneer on the B Corp movement, and you have done also a pioneer in sustainability in tech. But before going there, I would like to ask a bit, what is your journey in sustainability in tech? A bit of your background.
I started out my company in 1998, so it was the early days of the internet, and I had a few, tech jobs in the 90s. And what I saw happening a lot in the internet in those early days was that lots of money was getting funneled to, lots of not so great ideas, not necessarily ideas that shared my values. It was really grow, build. And I was seeing a lot of purpose-driven organizations and mission-driven entities like nonprofits, charities. We didn't even use the word social enterprise back in those days. But I was seeing a lot of these kind of purpose-driven organizations getting left behind. They were getting left behind on the education in tech, like their knowledge of tech was starting, especially the nonprofits were starting to be several years behind what kind of business practices were at that time. And also they weren't necessarily getting funding for projects that were tech related. That was too emergent at the time. And so I wanted to help those organizations. And so I founded Mightybytes with the purpose of working with mission-driven organizations to help them find success using the internet. And to some variation, for the last 25 years, we've been doing exactly that. The tools that we've used have changed, the clients that we've worked with have changed, but generally, the idea was to help mission-driven organizations find success using the internet. Now, in 2011, the company became a certified B Corp, and that's where we really started standardizing a lot of the things that we were doing kind of instinctually. We were wanting to work with mission-driven nonprofits and help those organizations, but we didn't really have a lot of policies and practices in place for sustainability and governance and kind of figuring out how best to serve our stakeholders. And so, the B Corp framework really helped us kind of advance that. And so we really, at that time, started folding sustainability principles into everything that we do, including the tech that we build. And when it comes to sustainability, we aren't just focused necessarily on, like, I look at a sustainability as kind of an ESG thing, an environment, social, and governance. And so I want to look more holistically at sustainability. In tech, a lot of the environmental impact is on electricity. For sustainability and electricity use, but there's also a lot of social impact work in tech that needs to be addressed. And if you're truly trying to create a more sustainable future, you need to be focusing on accessibility issues, inclusion issues, all of that stuff alongside environmental impact. So, we've really taken that to heart as a digital agency. We build digital products and services for our clients, and we apply sustainability principles on a broader level. The kind of true triple bottom line of people, planet, and prosperity to everything that we do. Here we are 25 years later, still doing it.
And wonderfully do, I might say. And I want to dig a bit deeper in the two concepts we have discussed. The first one, the sustainability in tech, how to be green and how to work there. And then we will go to the diversity and inclusion. I think in the last year has really also come across very strongly in the field. And I want to ask you, a bit of the sustainability in tech, some insights, and we know the work that you have pioneered in there.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we became a B Corp in 2011, and that kind of just opened our eyes to all kinds of different things that we might be able to do better as a business. And sustainability was one of those. We had gone through like a green office certification prior to being a B Corp, but that was really about, kind of general green office practices like, low flow toilets and LED light bulbs and that kind of stuff. As a tech company, a company that builds the internet for a living, we were also at that time starting to learn about a lot of reports that were coming out about the environmental impact of the internet. There's, over 5 billion people on the internet these days. As of April of this year, there are over 5 billion people, which is like 63% of the global population uses the internet every day. So, you can imagine the amount of electricity that's required to do that. Every single website, mobile app, text message, anything that, requires the internet to function uses electricity, and most of that electricity doesn't come yet from renewable sources. So, efficiency is the name of the game, reducing waste is the name of the game, figuring out how to do these things more sustainably is really where we as a digital agency started to try to focus. And so we identified, elements in our process of building a digital product. There's project management, there's user experience design, there's web development. Every single one of these, there's a touch point on inclusion and touch point on sustainability and energy use. And so we kind of revamped our process to essentially follow these practices. And in 2013, we built a tool called EcoGrader, which is just it's a simple little thing where you can put a URL in and get a report back on the sustainability of your digital product, whether that's a website or whatever. And so, we did that. And I think this touches on the inclusion thing that you're about to ask, because most people didn't understand this. And so education and awareness is a really big component of all the things that we do as Mightybytes, but also as part of this digital sustainability, because it is still, even in 2022, still nascent and emergent. It's really important to have freely accessible resources and tools. And so EcoGrader was one of them. We also collaborated with our friends at Whole Grain Digital, which is another B Corp in London, on a tool called sustainablewebdesign.org. And that's just an educational resource, kind of helps web designers and developers and website owners understand what the best practices are in tech and sustainability. And it's not super comprehensive. We're building it out to be more comprehensive, but the idea is that anybody can go there and get a general overview of sustainability principles and how they apply to the internet.
Very interesting, Tim. And I think we will put also in the episode the links to EcoGrader and the sustainability web design, because they are important tools on how to create, as you said, awareness and education. And this leads to the inclusion, and you are doing also pioneer work, as you have done in your sector for the sustainability, even to foster diversity and inclusion. I want to ask, why is so important?
We envision, as a tech company that's been, again, helping mission-driven organizations find success using the internet, we want that to be available and accessible to everyone. And that includes, people from all walks of life, people from all economic backgrounds, people, all kinds of people. And I think it's, historically, tech especially has been the domain of the white male. And I am a white male, but I think that it's time for us to, we have to share the wealth of technology that is available to us with everybody, create equitable solutions that are inclusive, and, equitable companies that are inclusive, equitable products and services. On the products and services side, what Mightybytes does is, we prioritize, in addition to sustainability, we prioritize accessibility, so that, anything that we build can be, viewed by or experienced by people with disabilities using assistive technologies. We really try to incorporate this idea of inclusion and asking ourselves who's not at the table, who's not represented here, into everything that we do, and that's really a key and critical component. The other side of that is that, when people are not included in digital products and services, a lot of unintended consequences occur, and people can't access really relative information. Sometimes that can be a life or death occurrence, if you're talking about access to information and public health care and that kind of thing. So I think, there's a number of issues related to diversity and inclusion and JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, that need to be, kind of flown into everything that a business does. And as a digital agency, that takes its own form, as I mentioned, with accessibility. And we view that as kind of part of the bigger picture of sustainability as well.
I really like what you said, talking and thinking about the people that are not at the table. That is crucial in any efficient and sustainable and inclusive web design. And I want to discuss now about the diversity, and especially to factor that's a bit overlooked, especially for some marginalized community. And Mightybytes Again, as I say, is a pioneer and also is an LGBT certified business. So how we can foster diversity, also include people in LGBT people in tech?
Yeah, I think in order to answer that, I feel like I kind of need to go back a little bit. And as a gay man, I came out in the age of AIDS in the 1980s. And, that was a really tough time to do that. And at that time, I saw these big kind of oppressive systems fail entire communities. There were people living with HIV, all over the place. And the systems that are supposed to be there to support us and, help us were failing entire communities. And so seeing that firsthand and kind of seeing, with these communities being completely neglected and, these marginalized communities, it really left an impression on me as we got into the 90s and I got old enough to start, my own business and that kind of thing. Now, I've never, as a business leader, I've never necessarily led with my, sexual orientation or anything like that. However, I do feel it's important that we all represent our own truth and our own stories. And so for me, making Mightybytes an LGBT certified business enterprise was just a natural it's part of who we are. Inclusion is built into what we do and who we are and kind of the mindset in the company, as well as my own personal mindset. And so that just was really important. It's a journey that took me a long while to get to. We didn't become an LGBT enterprise until 2017, 2016. It was not a thing that I didn't feel like we needed to differentiate ourselves that way at the time. But, I did some soul searching and really thought about it. And I wanted Mightybytes to be a place where people could feel like they could bring their whole selves to work and to be whoever they are. And so that was a really important part for me as part of the business, is just to identify as that.
And I really like what you say, a place where people can identify the old self. And this is something that it's really important, how to foster and to break barriers that in some areas, even some geographies, they are still holding back people that they are diverse and they are feel like threatened and minority, and in some countries even jailed. So for their orientation, we've talked about sustainability, we've talked about the diversity, the inclusion, and then I think the summary and the tool that really helped you also, as you said at the beginning, standardized and realized and how to align was the B Corp certification. As you know, in the program we had many B Corp certified. Also, you are friends of B Corp. So I want to share a bit the importance and benefit of being a B Corp certified business, especially in the tech, because that is also something, a peculiar sector.
I read this great post the other day about, the B Corp community currently globally is growing rapidly, which is very inspiring and very exciting to those of us who have been in it for a long time. And this post that I read, it was from another veteran B Corp, and a lot of people were asking him, what's in it for me? What does the B Corp, certification have for me? And that's not really the right question to ask. I mean, the question is, how can I help others? And what can my company do for, we have a lot of big, wicked problems on our hands right now, and they need, systems level change. And so, by banding together, organizations banding together in community to address some of these problems like climate change and equity and all these things, we are able to bring, create collective change and collective impact around those things. And so, it might be an instinctive kind of knee-jerk reaction to be like, B Corp certification, I might want that because that might be good for my business. That's not necessarily, it could be for sure. And I think the benefits and values of Mightybytes have actually, borne fruit over the years of our B Corp. We've certified 5 times and remain a passionate part of the community and are excited about being a part of that. But really, we're asking ourselves, like, what is it that we can do to support our stakeholders? I mean, that's really at the end of the day what it's all about. Your customers, your workers, your communities that you're in. What is it that your business can do to help advance them and help everybody thrive? And I think that last part, helping everybody thrive, is really the key component to it. But in terms of, the advantages that Mightybytes gets out of it specifically, when we first certified, it was still pretty early on. I think the first B Corps came into the world in 2007. We were there in 2011. I think we were number 9 in the state of Illinois in the US and number 430, 35 overall. And now we're in a community of over 5,000 B Corps. So we were early adopters of this. So when we would put that, B in a circle, the logo, the certified B Corp logo on our website and stuff, people didn't really necessarily know what that meant. That's changed. There's definitely, people see the B Corp stamp on our logo and our branding materials, and they understand it. And, also, to be frank, we don't shut up about it either. We're really like very vocal, and being part of the B Corp community is part of how we tell our story. So, that helps us align ourselves with our stakeholders, and align ourselves with like-minded people. When I first attended the very first B Corp Champions retreat, after we became a B Corp, I realized I had kind of found my community. It was really a like-minded community of business leaders who wanted to make a positive change in the world. And that was exciting to me. And it was really rewarding to see that. And also, to have a tool to do that. I think, there's a lot of business groups out there that are interested in creating positive change. The B Impact Assessment is a really great tool to use for kind of benchmarking your performance against standards and improving yourself over time. And I think that's really, really an important distinction of the B Corp community versus, say, some of these other groups that are focused on doing good business.
The holistic nature is what that distinctive advantage for the movement. And we are really seeing history of transformation and in pioneering the sector that are really focusing on what you said, the people, the planet, and also the profit to foster and do what is business for good. As we are approaching the end, and I think from the audience, we have discussed, we have touched a lot. I want you to ask maybe some practical points, some advice for company that on how to act on what we have discussed, also from your experience.
To me, the biggest lesson learned is always to take baby steps, do what you can, and do what your resources will allow. When we became a B Corp, we were super excited about it and dove in headfirst into it, and may have overextended ourselves in those early first year or two. And so, with digital sustainability, with being a B Corp, with creating an impact business model, with understanding your stakeholders, there are small steps or low-hanging fruit that you can deal with or, work towards, and at every step. And so identifying what that low-hanging fruit is and what are the things that you can do today that are within your resources is really helpful. And then, dovetailing that with a long-term plan and a long-term strategy to say, all right, we have a baseline. This is where we're at today. Where do we want to be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, and understanding what are the things you need to do within the resources that you have at your disposal to reach those goals. For me, that's been the biggest. It's an educational learning journey. It never ends. And that's part of the excitement about it for me. People are looking at the B Corp assessment as something, as a set it and forget it kind of thing. They're probably looking at it the wrong way. The other thing is that there's probably, to that end, there's probably areas within your business model currently that could be tweaked a little bit to create more impact. So, we, as I mentioned earlier, Mightybytes builds websites for a living. We build digital products for our clients. There were some things that we could do, pretty quickly by training our team on accessibility, for instance. And so making sure that as a default, all of the websites that we build are accessible for people with disabilities. All of the websites that we build are, lighter, leaner, efficient, and powered by renewable energy. Those kinds of things are just now built into the company's business model. They're part of our DNA and part of who we are, and we started by just making a couple, little tweaks here and there saying, hey, maybe we need to get more up to speed on this, that, or the other thing. And I think that anybody if they can take that approach, they're going to be more successful long-term.
Thank you so much, Tim. And then it's really interesting what you said and the importance of Mightybytes and the work that he has done, because as you say, doing a tweak here and there, and it's really helped you achieve the objective. So this is a very actionable point. Sometimes some people, they can be overwhelmed by, what I'm going to do. But exactly as you said, a bit here and there, Tim, helped you also become more sustainable and work. What is your message that you want to leave for the people that are listening to us?
Understanding who your business's stakeholders, not just in our community, in the user experience and web community. We tend to be hyper-focused on customers, and that's really important. Obviously, customer-focused organizations have the potential to be much more successful long-term. But their customers are not the only stakeholder in your ecosystem. And so kind of understanding what's in that ecosystem, who's in it, who's the primary player, who are the secondary players on stakeholder mapping, and just kind of, it's a workshop exercise that we go through to help ourselves as well as our clients understand who our stakeholders are and, you know, what value they get out of their relationship with Mightybytes. And that's I think it's a really important thing. I think it's often an overlooked thing especially with smaller companies. With larger companies, they have to, you know, do materiality assessments and you know, kind of some of these bigger things, especially if they're public companies. Smaller organizations, of which the B Corp community is, you know, primarily made up of a lot of small businesses, they might not, you know, think about this in ways, and that's why the B impact assessment is so eye-opening, because it really helps you understand, you know, your workers, your customers, your community, you know, the environment, all of the stakeholders in your business, and helps you better understand how to serve them.
Tim, I have no word to thank you. I think you have given us a wonderful episode with a lot of insights, and thank you for sharing, you know, the resources. I will put also in the description of the episode for the people that are listening to go through and go even deeper, understand also more about Mightybytes and the approach and the work, and also how maybe to grade and to see how to help make more sustainable websites.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on here, and if I can ever help you with anything, please let me know.
Perfect.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.